Hello, Paul Sutliff here. I'm here to talk to you about irreconcilable differences. Do they exist between the social norms of Western civilization and those of Islamists? So what am I talking about with Islamists? Islamists are simply those who want Sharia. Now, that we're not talking about people who only live in the Middle East either. We're not talking solely about people who are Arabs. We're talking about people from all over the world, in almost every continent. And we're talking about people who say they want Sharia. Now, why I'm saying this? I'm also saying that they are all different races. They're black, brown, red, white, yellow. They're all races. We're not talking about a race. We are talking about Islamists, people who want Sharia. Now, while I'm saying this, when I say Islamist, I understand there are people who want Sharia, but they have no clue what they're talking about. Again, they're repeating something they were told because they just don't understand what they mean. Why? Because under Islam, a lot of that, we'll be getting into it in these discussions. And under Islam, you don't always know what you're told is true, because a lot of times Muslims just can't read Arabic and they're told what they're supposed to repeat. But again, we'll get into those issues. So let me tell you about how this chapter started. It began when I started to think about how I could communicate what I'm seeing in the news on a daily basis without sounding crazy. What can I do to make people see what I'm seeing? I began to think about what I'm seeing in terms of crime and how something would explain these crimes. So I've done the research into this long ago to answer my own questions. It put to rest my own disbelief about what is actually true regarding Islamic culture and social norms. My research over the years has included interviews, numerous hours of reading and researching, and then I add to that every day with keeping fresh again with what's in the news every day. I thought long and hard about some of the stuff that's been required in New York State regions about, how all religions have rules for behavior. And how would that have to do with what we're talking about? Well, let's take a look at these social norms. How do we prove that they're real and not imagined by people who are not Muslims? Most adherents to Islam accept the entire Quran along with the Sunnah, the Hadiths, and the Sirahs. So understanding the need for more than the Quran is important, because the followers of Muhammad, the devout followers, desire to emulate Muhammad, their prophet. This means in order to provide a good understanding of Islam, acceptable to devout Muslims, we need to look at both the Quran and the Sunnah. We also need to look at what Islamic law, which is Sharia, says. But in order to start this topic, it's important to understand that the concept of duality exists within Islam. This means that often two messages are given. When the topic of separation is discussed, the alliance will also be an important topic. When love is discussed, expect hate to also be a topic. So let's get into Islamic supremacy. Pamela Geller said, "Supremacy is supremacy. Whatever group is striving for supremacy, the end result is the same. A protected class with special privileges that others don't enjoy. This is quintessentially anti-American." Well said, Pamela Geller. Islamic supremacism as a belief can be found in the Islamic doctrine known as Al-Wala and Al-Bara. Sheikh Mohammed Saeed Al-Qahtani is an Islamic scholar based in Saudi Arabia who is the author of Al-Wala wal-Bara, published in 1999 in English by Al-Firdaus Publications, and is considered the leading authoritative book on the subject today. Al-Qahtani states that in knowing what Al-Wala really means, you have to understand that Al-Wala refers to support in Islam, as Imam Shafi explained with regards to the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad. Well, whomever I am his supporter, Ali is also his supporter. So likewise, Allah states in the Quran that is because Allah is the Mawala ally of those who believe, and the disbelievers have no Mawala ally. Quran 47:11. So Al-Qahtani says of this reference to an ally, the ally is the opposite of the enemy. This is important to acknowledge as it places all non-Muslims as enemies. According to this author, al-bara in the Arabic language means severance. Severance is to leave off something. It's to walk away from something or to distance oneself from it. So what is the Muslim severing himself from in this belief? It is the things and people that are not of Islam. Al-Qahtani refers to Quran 257 to clarify this. It says, Allah is the ally of those who believe. He brings them out from darknesses into the light, and those who disbelieve, their allies are tagut. They come from out of the light into darkness. Those are the companions of the fire. They will abide eternally therein. Tagut is a reference to those who do not worship Allah, non-Muslims. We, the non-Muslims, are seen as the companions of the fire. The Quran here says non-Muslims will abide in hellfire, hence the reference to eternal fire. Al-Qahtani also believes that Muslims must be separate from disbelievers in every way. He quotes the Quran to prove his point. And if you turn away, he will exchange you for some other folk. Quran 47:38. And whoever turns away towards them in alliance is one of them. Quran 5:51. It's interesting that Al-Qahtani does not cite the full verse here. So again, for verse 5:51, here we go. O you who have believed, do not take the Jews and Christians as allies. They are in fact allies of one another. And whoever is an ally to them among you, then indeed he is one of them. Indeed, Allah guides not the wrongdoing people. Now, as you can see, the Jews and Christians are specifically named as not being allies, which under Islamic teaching makes them enemies. There is no in between, no space for remaining neutral. Some of these verses in the Quran are well known, but only portions of them. Take Surah 256. Many people have heard there is no compulsion in religion, but that's only part of the verse. There shall be no compulsion in acceptance of the religion. The right course has become clear from the wrong. So whoever disbelieves in Tagut and believes in Allah has grasped the most trustworthy handhold with no break in it. And Allah is hearing and knowing. Tagut being the reference to non-Muslim beliefs. The statement of no compulsion is paired with a statement that reminds Muslims of who and what they are to be separated from. The right course has become clear from the wrong. They are willing to take converts to Islam, but stand against those who do not have Allah as their ally. Surah 103 talks about the rope of Allah as being unifying. But if you read this closely, it's the actions of those who believe in Allah, not Allah himself, that is unifying. And hold firmly to the rope of Allah and all together and do not become divided. And remember the favor of Allah upon you when you were enemies, and he brought your hearts together and you became by his favor brothers. And you were on the edge of a pit of fire and he saved you from it. Thus does Allah make clear to you his verses that you may be guided. This unifying is for the purpose of uniting a people who should be superior to others. That is what the pit of fire is for. The others who disbelieve in Allah will burn in that fire. Surah 671 is seemingly like other religions that believe in their version of what is right. However, there's a significant difference. Let's look at this again. Say, shall we invoke instead of Allah that which neither benefits nor harms us and be turned back on our heels after Allah has guided us? We would then be like one whom the devils entice to wander upon the earth confused, while he has companions inviting him to guidance, calling, come to us. Say, indeed, the guidance of Allah is the only guidance, and we have commanded to submit to the Lord of the worlds. Note the reference to those who are not Allah's followers are compared to confused devils. Hence, no Muslims are demonic. They are not only not demonic, they are confused. They are not only demonic, they are confused devils. The Bible nowhere equates all non-believers as being devils. It talks about demonic possession, it talks about casting devils out of people, but nowhere are those who do not believe equated with devils. Surah 98:6 calls Jews and Christians and polytheists the worst of creatures. Think of what this creates in terms of permissibility with the faith structure known as Islam. Whether Sunni or Shiite, does not get much more supremacist than this. Indeed, they who disbelieved among the people of the scripture and the polytheists will be in the fire of hell, abiding eternally therein. Those are the worst of creatures. Islamic supremacist belief is preached in mosques all over the world. In a Friday sermon in Jhat, Israel, Sheikh Ahmad Badran said in a June 28, 2019 speech that was uploaded to the internet and translated by memory by the Middle East Media Research Institute. Here's what he said. We should say to the infidels that when we rule according to Islam, there will not be a single law that will not be Islamic. That's not all. We will never allow a non-Muslim to rule over Muslims. We should be clear about it. Some of our brothers say we exploit democracy in order to come to power. I am saying to the infidels, don't let yourself be fooled. Our Muslim brothers, although we think they have chosen the wrong path, if they rise to power through democracy and manage to consolidate their power, they will not allow an infidel to rule over them ever again. You can be sure about it. I'm referring to Erdogan or Mohammed Morsi. May Allah have mercy on his soul. It's all the same. Anywhere that Muslims come to power by any method, they will not allow an infidel to rule over Muslims ever again. We do not accept a pluralistic system that combines Islam and heresy. There is only Islam. So the short and sweet on this Islamic supremacy is that they believe Islam is a political structure as well as a religious structure. That belief means that absolutely everyone must obey Islamic law, whether they're Muslim or not. This belief leads to conflict with countries who have their own laws that oppose Sharia. Some of these will be addressed later on. One of the most shocking Islamic supremacist statements I found is in Sharia. In Reliance of the Traveler, the passage 01 on the penalty for murder. 01.1 states, retaliation is obligatory against anyone who kills a human being purely and intentionally and without right. There are then listed exceptions to Rule 01. It's under 01.2. 1. A child or insane person under any circumstances. 2. A Muslim for killing a non-Muslim. Some of the things you have to see for yourself in print. I had heard about this, but it was so hard to accept as truthful. Believe me, I know. I've been researching this topic of Islam for about 10 years now. The next section will be on the Islamic social norm in respect to telling the truth or lying. Wait till you hear what we have on that. Thank you.